Hey guys, today I have a really special treat for you, one of my educational videos, but it's going to be a little more extensive than usual. Yes, we still are in a lockdown in terms of the coronavirus, and I've been doing quickies to throw out there to you, but I've just been dying to show you this pistol, which is phenomenal. It's probably one of the favorite ones in my collection, and that's saying a lot. But before I get to that, that was just the tease. Let me do an update on a video I did last week. If you remember, I showed you a very rare Party Leader vinyl holster, and I said if anybody's ever seen one before, let me know. I talked about the fact I've never seen one that wasn't split open or cracked. I did have somebody contact me and said, hey, I have one. He actually sent it to me, and here it is. This is a second one, and it is cracked. So just to prove to you that I'm not lying, this one is not fastened, and again, I don't want to move it. Now, I did get a lot of comments from people that said this isn't real vinyl, it's an early vinyl, it'll dissolve with rubbing alcohol. I believe all that's true. I take your word for it. It is a precursor to vinyl. Not very good. They only use it for a short period of time, very rare. But this one is cracked like most of the other ones, and since I mentioned that, I wanted to give you that update. I am going to put this on our website and offer it for sale. Isn't it great working here? I get so many cool things coming in every week, and so thanks for all your comments and for your feedback on my videos. But today, as I mentioned, this is going to be an epic video. I'm going to take my time to get through it because there's a lot of information to cover, and it's all surrounding this gun. So first of all, we start with a wooden case. I doubt this is original to the gun, although it could have been used for mailing or shipping because it's just a very crude case. At one point it had some kind of a label here. These have been replaced, no doubt, but it does say Himmler presentation. Are you getting excited yet? All right, so then we open it up, and this is an original case for what I'm about to show you. So this is a presentation case, much like the Walther. Remember, I've shown you several Walther presentation cases. Let's get rid of this wooden box. Again, probably only for shipping to keep it safe. It does fit perfectly, and the button lines up with the hole right here. So it was certainly made for this presentation case. Let me show you what's inside. As I open up the case, you can see it has the brush. It has the dummy rounds, which we've seen before in the Walther boxes. Also in the cased Sauer. This is a Sauer 38h. You can see two magazines. Both of them have SS on the bottom, but the most important part, let's get to the gun. Here we have the gun itself. Now, you do see Himmler's autograph there. It's a very distinct autograph, and I've seen it in other documents. Certainly replication of his was prevalent, but also original autographs are pretty expensive. And we can see on the left side there is an inscription that says Dem Scharfschützen, which means the sharpshooter, or other people have said, loosely translated, for the sharpshooter. And that's exactly what this was. This was a presentation gun that Himmler gave out to sharpshooters. Now, I want to go into a little more detail, but let's finish up with the gun. On the other side, you see a little bit of a company logo, which is different. If we take a look at a factory standard 38H, you'll see the logo is much different. Here, it's a special logo. It's a high polish finish throughout. Just look at the shine. There's a little schmutzy at the back, the bottom back strap, but other than that, it's just a phenomenal gun. You can see another one was on Rock Island auction, not quite as nice a shape, but that was the gun only. This one is the gun with the original presentation case. Now, when I look into Jim Cate's book, which is now actually out of print, as of 2012, and then he updated it in 2015, there are only 5 of these known. However, the serial range is in the 475,000, and you can see the exact range there on your screen. But in that range, there were no more than 20 made, maybe 15 to 20 that were made. We believe it's a complete block in that serial range, where in 1944, Himmler ordered about 15 or 20 of these to be made. Again, in 2015, there was only 5 known. I think maybe 1 or 2 have shown up since then, but certainly less than 10 are known of these sniper presentation pistols. So when I've done other presentation guns, so for example, I did presentation guns from Fritz Sauckel. Fritz Sauckel was the head of the Ministry of Labor and therefore in charge of the slave labor. And he did presentations. He liked to give out presentation engraved Walthers to his subordinates. Also, Himmler, of all people, he gave out these presentations to snipers, and it actually documented that they went to Army and Waffen SS snipers. And immediately under Himmler was Gottlob Berger, who was the father of the Waffen SS, and we know we did a couple videos about Gottlob Berger giving out presentation guns to his subordinates. So we know that it was common practice for German generals and high political leaders they love to give out presentation guns, and we love to collect them. This one in particular has his signature on it. There are also some known Walther PPs that had the insignia "To the Bravest" or "To the Courageous." We can see one here. I've had a couple of those come through my hands, but they are also signed by Himmler, and he presented it for bravery. This gun in particular, though, was documented that it was an award given to a sniper who had 100 confirmed kills. So before I go into the documentation of that, let's get the unsavory part out of the way. I just realized I wasn't wearing my gloves. I apologize. That's one of the disadvantages of working by myself. But I started to say was, let's get to the unsavory part of this. A while back, I did a video on slave labor and how slave labor was used to make many of these guns. And I just talked honestly about the fact that, if you are a collector in this hobby, some people are highly offended because we collect things that were probably built by slave labor, forced labor. But it's a reality and it's part of history. And this is the same. I'm talking about a gun. This gun was not used to kill probably anybody. Probably some of them were never issued. The ones that were issued were 1945 toward the end. And so they probably were awarded this. They set it aside, kept it in the case until after the war was over. So this gun probably never killed anybody, but that's besides the point. It was awarded to somebody who had 100 confirmed kills. Now, whether that was a Russian soldier, a British soldier, or an American soldier, the stark reality is they were rewarded for being good soldiers, protecting the fatherland. Not too different than what we do in the movie American Sniper. We revere American soldiers who protect the United States and protect our soldiers as snipers. And we know that Chris Kyle had over 200 kills. I forget how many were confirmed, but the movie The American Sniper, we revere the man who had confirmed kills. Now, some people don't. There are people who are going to watch this video, and I'm going to get pretty nasty comments. I understand that, and I understand it makes me a little squeamish to think that the guy who was awarded this may have been rewarded this for killing American soldiers. That does bother me, but it's still a piece of history, not something that I think should be thrown away, but something that we need to talk about because it helps us to understand World War II and some of the carnage that happened during that period of time. Remember, if we don't learn from our history, we're bound to repeat it. So let's get back to the documentation on this gun. So I want to start off by saying that also in 1944, there was commissioned a badge or an award that was given to the snipers, and they were patches. They look like this. It's I guess it's an eagle eye to represent the sniper, and there was no piping on the one that was given for 20 kills. Then at 40 kills, you got a silver piping that was a second-class badge. And the first-class badge would have been the gold piping, and that was for 60. So they got awards for 20, 40, 60 kills. And again, these were confirmed. They had to be witnessed by somebody who was with you and documented immediately, not a month later we try to recall. It had to be documented and witnessed by somebody. But in addition to that, we know that Himmler was trying to build morale. That was part of his job, head of the SS, head of the Waffen-SS. He was head of the Army Reserves. He was the head of a lot of things because he was in a high position of power. And they like to give out awards, particularly in as late as 1944 and 1945, which is surprising. When I've talked about engraved Walders, I said they're still taking guns off the factory floor and spending time to engrave those guns so that they can present them. Why? Well, to boost morale. They were trying to recruit snipers. They had a high attrition rate, especially on the Eastern Front. I want to say a little bit about that. A lot of the sniper activity, in fact, the most prevalent sniper activity happened on the Russian front. I'm not sure why, but it was the way that they conducted warfare, and also the Russians used a lot of snipers as well. We know from Enemy at the Gate, you see a little bit, maybe that trailer. If you're stuck inside like I am, it's a great movie to watch or go back and rewatch during this time of shutdown. Story about a farmer, a peasant boy, who rose to be one of the greatest heroes of the Russian army because of his sniper skills. This is the character who played that sniper, and he actually portrayed a real person. To go with it, here's a picture of the real person along with his name. He is a real hero in Russian World War II history. And in fact, I would venture to say Russians who are watching this know him by name. He had 225 confirmed kills. We also know from the movie that they used a lot of snipers. They trained a lot of snipers. And they also had female snipers, a large number of female snipers that they used. And also in the movie, they portray a major of the German army named Major Koenig, who went up to kill their most famous sniper. Now that part is fictional, although they did have snipers who did try to take out the Russian sniper. That part of the story is fictional. Now, one of the interesting things when I watched the movie, it shows the actor in the movie using a Mosin Nagant model 9130. And that actually was the rifle that he used. It's a bolt action rifle. We've sold quite a number of those. They're plentiful and fairly inexpensive. And they often are paired up with what I call a PU scope. I'm not sure of the power of that scope. And by the way, I'm not an expert on sniper rifles. I'm sure some of you could help me out with some of the facts. But when I saw the movie and I saw that little scope, we have sold those, and I've looked through that scope, and there's no way he killed 255 people with that little scope. It's a very weak and common scope that was used, and as I said, we have sold those for not very much money at all. And then when you look at the real hero from that time period, the Russian that was the actual sniper, you can see he has a much longer scope. So that made me feel better because he did have a special scope, and for those kinds of kills, from those kinds of distances, he would need a very powerful scope. Now the German soldier is using a K98, which is probably accurate. They preferred a bolt-action rifle for accuracy. And it looks like he's using a long side rail. Here's a couple of pictures of German sniper rifles. Again, I am not an expert. The one thing that I know about German sniper rifles that I want to pass along to you is never buy one without help. I have never bought a German sniper rifle without getting help from somebody who really was an expert. I don't trust myself to do that. In fact, when I have picked out German sniper rifles that I thought were real, 9 out of 10 were put together. That doesn't mean they're fake, but it does mean they were not originally issued as sniper rifles, but somebody just took a K98, they bought a scope and put them together and then sold it as a sniper rifle. But to find a real German sniper rifle, particularly the long side rail, it's a very powerful scope, very powerful sniper rifle, and very effective on the Eastern Front. They can easily be $8,000 to $15,000. And again, often were issued to either the Army snipers or the Waffen-SS snipers. Okay, so as cool as that movie is, I found something I think is even cooler. I found a training film from 1944 for German snipers. So let me pick out a few highlights. It's actually an hour long, and you could find it yourself. It's very long, and some parts of it are a little bit tedious. But in this training film, and it has been translated into English. It's an original German Army training film for their snipers. In the very beginning, you see the snipers, they're showing how to use their rifle, which at the beginning of this film was a K98. But then later, they show a gathering of sniper recruits. In fact, the leader of the group, he's instructing them and telling them stories about Bolsheviks that he shot. He keeps using the word, I shot the Bolsheviks. And so he tells a story, and the young recruits are listening. And if you take a look at that, they're holding a K43, or it could be a G43. And now that's a sniper rifle that I have purchased, and we do sell on the site. In fact, I just sold one, and I have one going out the door. Again, it's a K43 with a scope. Let me just take a look at one of those real quickly. This one is actually a G43, and many on our website are K43s. This one was made in 1944. In fact, the maker is DUV44. It often will have a resin handguard. This is wooden, and this actually is wood, but you can see pictures of some of the ones we've sold. It's wood with a resin. This was often referred to as Hitler's Garand because, of course, the U.S. Army had the Garand, which was far superior to what most of the Germans were using. So they developed this G43 or K43 just for the specific reason to compete with the M1 Garand. And it does have a removable magazine. Removable magazine, pops right in. You shut the bolt. I hate to stick my finger back down in there. It slams shut. Semi-automatic rounds. Now again, usually the snipers preferred a bolt action, but this was semi-automatic and actually pretty accurate. I'm going to take a look at the scope. This mount is not the normal mount. This mount is very crude, and so it would fit with the late 1944, even 45. It's a crude mount. Most of the mounts look like this one, and this will fasten it down loose and fast or tight. And this one has the rubber piece to protect your eye. These scopes are marked ZF4, and they're fairly common. So again, you see those soldiers, they're all carrying one of these K43s. They had the ZF4 scope, not as powerful as the longer scopes, but these were fairly plentiful. And we do regularly sell these off our site. We probably sold a dozen of them, and they sell in the 5,000 to 6,500 range, depending on the condition, and also the rarity of the maker and the date. People like the 1945 stuff, by the way, because it's the real late war stuff was thrown together. They're often blued and phosphated parts, which gives it a really nice dual tone look to it. You can see the ZF4. It's also serial numbered. The serial number of the scope does not match the gun. The gun should be all matching, but the scope would generally not be matching. I don't think they ever should be matching. Just because they made them separately and just put them together, not necessarily looking for matching up the serial numbers. But this is what many of the snipers would use. But as I said, we just sold this one off the site for $5,500, and it's going to a new home tomorrow morning. So back to that, the training video, the German training video. If we go back to that, the guy in charge, I got a chuckle out of this because we're talking about getting a free pistol for 100 kills. This guy had, I think he had about 60-some kills, and he said, so that means he got the gold piping badge. And by the way, they never sewed that badge on their uniform. You can just imagine being on the Russian front and you have a badge saying, I have 60 kills. I don't think the enemy, even the American Army, would treat you really well when you have 60 confirmed kills. But he said, as a reward, my commanding officer, and here's a little clip of it, gave me a picture of himself with a little letter.
Sie, Herr Unteroffizier, sind doch mit 64 Abschüssen einer der besten Scharfschützen. Hatten Sie auch ein spannendes Erlebnis?
Das klingt ja wie Teamtop. So ist das nicht. Es geht immer aufs Ganze dabei. Hier. Nach meinem 64. Abschuss wurde ich zum Unteroffizier befördert und bekam außerdem diese Widmung vom kommandierenden General. Kann ich mal sehen?
When I watched this whole video of the training, it's actually mostly about the art of deception. So a lot of the sniper training was all about being deceptive. They show you how to camouflage yourself. And they're constantly, when it's sniper against sniper, and you see this in the movie Enemy at the Gate, but also in this training, they show how they try to deceive the enemy by moving a bush that's a little ways away. That way, the opposing sniper will take a shot, and I now know their location. So they try to, the key is try to get your enemy to take the first shot so that you can then locate your enemy. So by far, my favorite part of this video, this training video on snipers and how to deceive the enemy, comes in this short little clip. I watched this and it blew my mind because a light bulb went off. Here, check it out.
And what have we here? A smoking grenadier, made from simple materials. A sharpshooter must be imaginative. He must always be coming up with new deceptions.
Did you ever wonder where that expression came from? Don't blow smoke up my posterior region. If you ever wondered where that came from, this is it. This is the video. This must be where it came from because basically, in order to deceive somebody or to pull the wool over their eyes, they literally blew smoke into a tube that deceived the enemy. Now, I think that's a phenomenal find, and I think you probably want to share it with your friends. So I'm going to ask Randy to just take a brief segment of that, maybe a 2-minute segment of it, and offer it to all of you. Because if you're like me, I want to send that to all my friends. Now, most of my friends don't want to watch this whole video, but they want to see that clip because I think it's phenomenal. It finally explains. I always wonder, what does that mean? Don't blow smoke up. You know, what does that mean? Now you know. Don't try to fool me. Don't try to deceive me. So all you have to do is email us and put in the subject line, blowing smoke, okay? Email us, blowing smoke, and we'll send you just that little video clip that you can send to all your family and friends. It'll be great. I know I've hit you with a lot of information, but there's one detail that I think is important that I should point out. This reward, besides the badges that people got for 20 kills, 40 kills, and 60 kills, there are letters written by Himmler where he directs, as part of a recruitment drive to get more sharpshooters, that after 50 kills, you would get a wristwatch and a special leave, which means, you know, you get to go back home for a short period of time. So the wristwatch, I'm not aware of any of them being found. However, after 100 kills, the sniper would have his choice. You could either get a really good pair of binoculars, a hunting rifle, or this pistol. And it all said they were to be inscribed to the sharpshooter and signed by Heinrich Himmler. So if this was actually given out, it was probably given out in early 1945, although maybe it never was. And again, it came in this presentation case. When we think about the German snipers that might have gotten this gun, there's two that come to mind. If you Google search German snipers with the most kills, there are two people that come to mind. The first being Josef Allenberger, who had the second highest kill count. But then the person that was number one in the German army was Matthaus Heisenauer. You can see they preferred the bolt-action K98, and you can see the scope that they used. None of them, I don't see pictures of them wearing the patch. As I said, they probably wouldn't in case they were captured. But it is likely that they were at least offered, after 100 kills, they were at least offered either a hunting rifle, a really good pair of binoculars, or this Sauer 38H. I personally would have taken the Sauer 38H. So this one is in my collection, and I'm going to keep this one for a very long time. You do see them come up for sale very, very rarely. Those people who have them generally don't want to sell them. But when they do come up, they sell anywhere from $35,000 to about $65,000. So it's quite an investment. You have to really want one in order to spend that kind of money. Hey, I hope you guys enjoy this one. We put a little more work into it. There's a lot to cover. I hope you liked it. And also make sure you like and subscribe. Tell some of your friends. Maybe forward this to some other people who might be interested. And hit the notification bell so you're notified when we do another video.